What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here again with Droid Life. So big news today. This is a Samsung phone in my hand. I know that's kind of shocking to begin with, but the big news is that Samsung's new One UI, which is Android Pie, well, One UI is their new skin on top of Android Pie. The beta has now been made available to the Samsung Galaxy S9 and S9 Plus, kind of across the globe in select countries, but for sure in the US, I have it up and running on this phone. So there's a lot to talk about here, a lot to show off. We're going to dive into this. Here's a first look at the Samsung One UI. So where should we begin first? Well, let's just kind of take a little bit of tour here just so you guys can kind of see what's going on. So lock screen, well, always on display, hasn't changed a ton, but there are some new I believe this is a new layout. There are supposedly some new layouts. You can add some new colors and things like that, which may or may not be new. We'll dive back into that in a second. If we unlock though, you go to the home screen, it looks sort of familiar, but you'll notice down here, we do have some new icons. So new phone icon, messaging, that's Samsung's browser, and that is the camera icon. So new icon set, which is fun. The navigation icons have changed too. You've got a little slit pointing that way, a little arrow, home button, and then this is actually your app switcher. And it looks a little bit like that, I think, because they've actually changed the app switcher UI. From there, though, we can still swipe up to get into our app drawer, and it's still a horizontal app drawer. But you can see the styling of the icons has just changed a little bit, or maybe that shape has. It's kind of more squircly, although I know that's been there in the past. But so icons just look a little bit different in here. We'll go down, we'll swipe this down. So seeing things do start changing here quite a bit. So if we swipe to fully expand this, you'll notice big clock up top. You got date. You definitely have that sort of Android Pie-ish Google kind of look going on in this area with all these shortcuts. But so things, layout, I should say, has just kind of changed a little bit here. So much simpler look, possibly a new font, things like that. You'll definitely notice round corners. See down here at the bottom, you'll notice those round corners throughout. If we jump into the actual settings area, so this is one of the new stylings or ideas for this One UI from Samsung is when you open something up top, you kind of have this dedicated space that maybe tells you what's going on. And that's because they're pushing things down into this sort of easy reachable area. So now I can quickly with my thumb just reach to, connections or display or whatever, rather than it being all the way up there. So when you open something, that's what you'll find a lot is this kind of layout. In terms of new stuff in the settings, you'll notice everything's just kind of chunked off a little bit more than it has been in the past, chunked off, and you can see everything's kind of got these round corners. But that's sort of the style they're going with. This is sort of blocked off, and reorganizing everything has apparently been very important for Samsung in this. So you notice again in individual settings areas, everything's just kind of blocked off. So blue light filter, night mode, and screen mode are kind of in this one chunk because Samsung thinks those should be grouped together. So that's just kind of like the general idea of what they're going with here. But other things have changed too, right? So if I tap on the app switcher, you'll notice it now looks like this. It's a horizontal style, similar to iOS, which did this, I believe, first, and then Google with Android Pie. And we've seen, OnePlus adopt this, and others have as well. So this is what it looks like. If you want to get rid of something, you swipe it up. You can tap on something to get into it. You can double tap twice, and that'll change your app. So that's kind of familiar, at least. But it certainly looks different in here, and you can scroll through and get into, whatever you want to get into. Long pressing on the home button still will get you into Google Assistant if you want. You still have a Bixby button over here, so I can double tap on that is how I have it set up, and that'll launch into Bixby. Bixby is Bixby. I don't really want to talk about Bixby. I'm not going to get that much into that. We want to talk about all of the other stuff, but the Bixby button's still there. It says it's a new Bixby, although I feel like it's similar to what we saw with the Note 9. So either way, Bixby's there. You can launch it all the normal way. So as far as just general looks go, though, things are in the same places, like your app drawer is still here. Your app switcher is still accessible, just looks different. Some different styling to the icons and buttons. And then again, up here, this all kind of looks a little bit different, maybe just more modern or polished. I do kind of like the big clock and date stuff they got going on. It actually looks kind of cool. Everything's very accessible. So far, I really like what Samsung's doing here. I think everything looks pretty slick. So let's jump into some of the new features. To start, I think we should just dive right into night mode. I think the most of you are pretty excited about this. So Samsung built in a full night mode in this, and you go into display settings, and you can see we've got blue light filter and your screen mode, but sandwiched in between those is a night mode. So if I turn that on, it flips your phone from white theme to black. So it is a night theme that should be used at night to ease strain on your eye, not light up a room, that sort of thing. But you could just run this all day if you want. Now, if I actually go in there, it talks about setting up a schedule. For some reason, that's not showing for me. I don't know if I missed a button or press or something like that, but it says it needs to know your location, and then you can set up a schedule. I will probably do that, or I may just run night mode most of the time. But this isn't just a settings tweak where you get night mode, in here and these things turn dark. This is actually a night mode for system apps as well. So if we open the phone, you can see it's black. If we go into the Messages app, also black. Now, I don't know about Samsung's browser, but I have a feeling it's also black. So it changes everything in the UI to black. It is a true night mode. So anyway, let's go back in and we're going to turn that off just for now while we're doing this. So turn that off. Let's talk about some other things because night mode's cool, but there's some other stuff going on. So if we go into buttons and gestures, let's actually go back. Actually, no, it is in display. So if we go down here to navigation bar, there's a couple of things. So navigation buttons, which I obviously have up and running right now. You still have the unlock with home button, hard press home button. Those two options, those haven't changed, but we do have full screen gestures now. Now, I do not like these at all, but how they work, and there's a little tutorial there. You swipe up over here to go back, swipe up here for home, and swipe up here for your app switcher. So if I swipe up there, goes home, and it takes your navigation bar away. So you kind of get that gesture experience, which is all the rage these days. Swipe up here and that gets you into your app switcher. Again, swipe up here and go home. If I go in here and tap on something and I want to go back, I swipe up over here and that takes me back, and I swipe up here and that can take me home. And so you guys get how this works. It's pretty standard gesture stuff. Again, I'm not exactly the hugest fan of it, so I'm going to go with the standard buttons, but that is there, and I do believe that's new. Let's go back another couple of screens here into settings. So in lock screen, just want to talk about always on display. So I believe this feature is new, but well, not always on display is not new, but so you've got some new clock styles, which I think I showed you up front. But one thing is in display mode, there is a tap to show or show always. So I have it set to show always, but you can set it up to do tap to show. And this is a feature that's actually on OnePlus phones. So you don't get the screen always lit up, but if I do tap it, it will then light up and show me stuff. So it could be a little bit of a battery saver in that you don't have the screen always on. But if you do want to see something, you can tap it and that will show it to you. So again, I lock that like that. And then if I want to see it, I just tap on the screen. So kind of cool, right? Maybe a little bit. Either way, I'm going to say show always. So that feature is baked in. Now let's go show you really quickly if I go into the Messages app and create a new message. So the keyboard has changed some. So if I go into this little button and go into modes, there is actually a floating keyboard now. We saw Gboard do this recently, but you can grab this and drag around and it'll float. You can type away from wherever you want. In order to drop it back, I was hoping there was a shortcut, but it looks like you have to go all the way back through this. It is an adaptive keyboard, so it's supposed to change from light to dark theme depending on what you're doing. I don't really have a way to show you that, but the keyboard has been updated in order to do that, which is kind of cool. And then I also thought I'd show you in the camera. So if we double tap and go into camera, there is a new scene optimizer feature, which if you tap on this, we've seen this from companies like LG before. So I'll tap on this little question mark up here. So scene optimizer says automatically adjust the color settings of your pictures to match the subject matter. So if you use this and take a picture, it tries to automatically adjust the scene and help you take better photos. And these are the different types of scenes it says it can adjust. So I'll let you decide if that's something you want to use. I will probably just continue to shoot in regular photo mode or over here in selective focus, which is kind of like a portrait mode. Those are probably my two favorites, but there is a scene optimizer mode now as well. So that's pretty much it. If we jump into settings, I just wanted to show you about phone. Go into software information, One UI version 1.0, Android version 9, because it is indeed running Pi. And this new beta is also, well, Samsung Experience version 10.0. So we're up to that, and it's One UI and the Experience. It's going to get confusing. And I believe this is November security patch. So anyways, this has just been kind of a quick look at the new look and some of the styling and new ideas going on here in Samsung's new One UI. I'm gonna play with it some more. We'll get back to you, let you know if this is the greatest thing ever invented. So far, I actually think it's a great improvement over the last experience. So anyways, comments, questions, let us know. We'll have links below to help you get signed up for the beta if you are interested. Otherwise, we are Droid Life. Peace.